Every single thing about the Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus is about being big. A big display, a big battery, a big charging brick for fast charging, and a big camera sensor that aims to dethrone the best mid-range camera phone in its category. This phone is the most expensive and most premium mid-range from the Redmi series by Xiaomi. It's not yet available in the Philippines, but I expect it to be out sooner than later. But in India, the base model that I have here with 8GB RAM and 256GB storage starts at 29,999 rupees or nearly 20,000 pesos. The top model has 12GB RAM but with the same storage capacity. You should be getting almost everything you need and more out of a mid-range phone. And that's basically what you get from this phone. A fast and large OLED display, 120 watts fast charging that tops up the 5000 mAh battery in just 19 minutes, and a 200 megapixel camera sensor that's basically overkill on paper. But because of those numbers, one thing kinda has to suffer to accommodate all of those features, and that's the build of this phone. But first, a short message from today's sponsor, Keysfan. If you're looking to acquire a legitimate license for your PC, Keysfan has you covered. They offer genuine and valid licenses of Windows 10 Home, 10 Pro, and even Windows 11 and 11 Pro. You can even get a Windows 11 Pro license for only $13.31 US, a massive discount from $199. Make sure to not skip their spring sale that's happening right now, as you can get up to 66% discount on Windows keys and even Office licenses. And by using the code JD50 upon checkout, you're going to get a 50% discount on whatever you choose to purchase on their website. Keysfan also offers 24/7 online customer support with a free refund if you're not satisfied with the product. You can check all the sweet deals in the description box below. Thank you Keysfan for sponsoring this video. At 208 grams and 8.9mm width, the Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus is a heavy and thick phone by today's standards. I do appreciate the non-Gorilla Glass backing, and even though the finish on this white color is reflective, I actually don't mind since I barely see any fingerprint smudge. I also like the side curving to the middle to not make this phone feel like it's a book, but really if you've gotten used to the thin profile of curved phones and the boxy phones of last year, this is going to feel bigger and heavy. In fact, it almost felt as if I was holding a Xiaomi 11T, which was one of the biggest mid-range phones of 2021. However, this phone doesn't feel as premium as other phones in its price range. There's still dust and splash resistance, thanks to the IP53 rating, and Redmi still managed to provide us a headphone jack up top and a stereo speaker setup, when other competing brands continuously omit these small but vital features. Well, except for the microSD slot, which was previously available on the Note 11 Pro Plus. Here, you just don't get to expand storage. The Dolby Atmos speakers though could definitely be better. It sounds tinny and doesn't get very loud for a phone this big, but it's definitely better than single firing ones. There's a good balance between mids and highs, but in exchange, the loudness and bass take a hit. The ever so useful 120 watts Hypercharge is still here, but since the battery is 500 mAh bigger, the 5000 mAh cell can get up to 100% in just 19 minutes. I also like the fact that the charging brick is now a GaN type, which makes the brick compatible with USB-C devices supporting power delivery. But by default, the phone charges at 67 watts, which is still fast and all, but it's not 120 watts. So to take advantage of all that speed, you need to go to the battery setting and turn on boost charging speed. The lower the battery percentage of this phone, the faster it charges. In addition to that, the feature will only kick in when the phone screen is off. How would you know the feature is working when the screen is off? You would feel the phone getting warm, and Redmi also warns the user of this before charging. And true enough, the phone does get warm, it even says in the battery settings, so that's normal. But if it gets too hot, maybe because you're in a high temperature environment, it's best not to use 120 watts. During my testing, with the 1% left, the phone got to 23% in 3 minutes, 50% in 10 minutes, 90% in 20 minutes, and 100% in 27 minutes. As for the battery life itself, it's good enough. I average 4 hours of screen time with this phone, which is kinda on the low side compared to the typical 5 to 7 hours I get with the previous phones I reviewed. But the difference here is that I was mostly out and about with mobile turned on for at least 4 hours and hotspot turned on for 2 hours. I never got home with an empty battery, which is great, and I mostly go home with 40 to 50% battery left. Not much has changed with the display. It's still the same 6.67-inch size, but instead of joining the curved trend, Redmi opted to use a flat panel. You do get medium-sized bezels around the display, but the OLED panel is now capable of reaching up to 900 nits outdoors in a sunny day. Redmi also added support for Dolby Vision playback, so videos with a said format will play with the right brightness and contrast levels, say for example in Netflix. And yes, you still get the same 120Hz refresh rate for buttery smooth animations. There's no option in the setting to set to 90Hz, but the default setting sets the refresh rate to dynamic to save power, so it automatically switches between 60 and 120 to extend battery life. I definitely don't have any bad things to say about the display. It's sharp, colorful, bright, and immersive when playing games, and it's also sporting Gorilla Glass 5, just FYI. When it comes to performance, the Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus is using the Dimensity 1080. Basically, you're looking at around a 5% boost in CPU performance versus last year's Dimensity 920 of the 11 Pro Plus. So if you're expecting a significant upgrade in GPU or gaming performance, you're not going to get that here. But in day-to-day use, 1080 feels smooth and fast. It handles MIUI 14 very well, and the stutters when scrolling social media apps are minimal, particularly Twitter, but sometimes non-existent depending on the app. It also doesn't get warm to the touch when playing games like Mobile Legends or when using this phone with mobile data and a hotspot turned on. However, Redmi still has some room for improvement here. The Note 12 Pro Plus runs MIUI 14 out of the box, but it's still based on Android 12. We are less than 5 months away from Android 14, and this new phone is still running Android 12. I can still see year-old bugs here, like double tap to sleep on the home screen not working, broken light theme in Google Discover, and the phone starting to show micro jitters in scrolling when I have mobile data turned on. And sometimes notifications come in just when I turn on the screen. Hopefully Redmi or Xiaomi a fix for these gets out soon. I did notice, however, something different with the latest Redmi or Xiaomi phones. It seems like they are starting to replace Google as the default app to go. For example, when I search for an app in the launcher, it usually redirects me to the Play Store. But here, it's now redirecting me to Get Apps, which is a Play Store alternative by Xiaomi. What's more is that you cannot uninstall Get Apps. But hey, at least if the US starts blocking Xiaomi, you can easily get your apps here. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Finally, there are the cameras. Aside from the 200 megapixel sensor, the rest of the camera setup is the same. So you're still getting an 8 megapixel ultra wide, 2 megapixel macro, and 16 megapixel selfie camera. However, Redmi added OIS for better stability when recording videos and taking photos. Furthermore, there is stabilization up to 4K at 30 FPS video recording. And to activate 200 megapixel mode, you have to switch to Ultra HD mode in the camera app. By default, the mode captures photos in 50 megapixel. You would have to tap the icon to capture at full 200 megapixel. Let's start with the photos first. All the cameras will do a great job of delivering good looking photos for your needs, except for the macro sensor, but I think the 200 megapixel is something to be excited about. The sharpness and detail quality are outstanding even when you zoom in, regardless if it's 200 megapixel or normal mode. You will hardly see any noise in both the shadows and highlights. Even indoor lighting performance gets an nod here, with almost no noise in the image. Night mode is also one of the cleanest and brightest in this price range. There was no lighting with this shot except for the window lighting where I'm standing, but it even managed to capture the stars. Very impressive. But as per usual with Android software, with the exception of Google Pixels, the software here still tends to smoothen out the skin tone, at least in photos. And if you haven't noticed yet, nearly most of the shots by the Note 12 Pro Plus are overexposed. That's because HDR doesn't kick in as often as it typically does. Most of the time, the stock camera app turns off HDR, even when the photo includes incredibly bright or dark parts of the frame. It's really hard to make HDR activate on this phone, almost as if it's like a bug or something. I actually had to cover the sensor with my hands and quickly capture a photo as soon as I remove my hands from it just to trigger HDR. As for the videos, the quality is also impressive. The middle part of the frame is the sharpest and most color accurate when shooting, but the main camera struggles to keep the shadows clean and details, so as a result, you get a noisy and smudgy look regardless of the lighting present. But what's great about video shooting is the microphone quality. Unlike most mid-range phones, the Note 12 Pro Plus captures vlog-like quality audio, making this a great companion if you ever want to record vlogs with it.
Sus, hindi nagbabayad yan kaya special participation. Walang bayad, libre yun.
Luto ka na, pre. The OIS does its job decently well on all resolutions except anything with 60 frames. However, it's most effective at 1080p. At 4K, you would need to have steady hands in stationary or gimbal when walking. There's no OIS for the selfie camera, but the stabilization is also impressive at 30 fps. But like the main sensor, the selfie camera struggles in HDR. At the very least, the selfie photos here are better than most of its competition. Overall, the huge megapixel count on mid-range phones finally means something here. Sure, the cropped images you get from the 200 megapixel don't get as detailed as dedicated telephoto lenses, but the added detail and sharpness provide a user-grade photo and video experience in almost all scenarios. HDR is an area where they need to work on, but hopefully this gets addressed in the next software updates. That's basically the Note 12 Pro Plus. With rumors of Samsung ending the Galaxy A7 lineup, I think this phone is a great alternative. It has a big, bright, and fast screen, it has big and capable cameras, it has incredibly fast charging capability, and it even has a headphone jack and great microphone quality. What's even great is that you don't have to deal with an underperforming Exynos chipset because even the Dimensity 1080 beats Samsung's Exynos when it comes to performance. That's it for the Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus. I'm currently still reviewing the Note 12 Pro side by side with this phone, although the non-Plus version has a 50 megapixel sensor and 67 watts charging. It's going to be interesting how it stacks up with the 200 megapixel sensor since that one is using a Sony sensor with the same chipset. So make sure to subscribe to get notified when that video drops. Don't forget to drop a sub or like if you like supporting the channel, and until the next one, stay safe.